Okay, welcome everyone. Meeting of the Poquoson City Council for August the 10th, a Monday. We just finished a closed session where we talked about Wainwright Drive private and public drainage easements. We may reflect on some of that this evening, but just letting you know where we're coming from. And then I'll call this meeting to order, the regular meeting, and I'll ask you to all please rise while I have the invocation and lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for the many blessings that we've received in our city. As we move forward and deliberate issues before us that affect our citizens, we ask for your clear judgment and wisdom that we serve those people in our city appropriately. As always, Lord, we ask for your presence, that you provide your presence, your strength, and your ability to make decisions, and your comfort to those who serve our nation, whether they be in our military or they be in service to our public through any agency, federal, state, or local. And we do all that, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda this evening is an audience for visitors. If there's anybody that would like to address council on any issue, noting that we have 3 public hearings this evening, so if you're here to talk about the public hearings, we ask for you to reserve your comments to them. Do we have anybody in the public that would like to speak? Henry? Take this microphone over here.
Thank you for hearing me out here. Just a couple brief things, and I'm not even sure if they have to do with the sessions y'all are talking about tonight, but a couple of things that were kind of near and dear to me when I was on this council I wanted to talk about. First of all is conditional use permits. Whether you approve a conditional use permit or you decline a conditional use permit, it shouldn't be on the neighbor to be the police person for that conditional use permit, whether it's approved or not. You can have people that get a conditional use permit approved. You can have people who start calling, the neighbor can start calling and just call them because they've got nothing better to do, so they call and call and call. Or you can have a neighbor where a conditional use permit has been turned down, but the neighbor continues to do things that were denied in his conditional use permit, but now it's on the neighbor to be the person to call and complain. I just don't think that's right. And what I heard when I was on council at the time was that they just didn't have enough manpower to do that. I would think you wouldn't have to do it continually, but I would think in the first year, whether you approved or you declined a permit, someone could possibly go out every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever it took for a year, to see whether you have a good actor or a bad actor, whether you've approved it or declined it. I just don't think it's right that you have to pit a neighbor against a neighbor to complain whether they're not fulfilling or are fulfilling it, and somebody keeps complaining about it, whether it's not true or not. That's just that issue. I just think that the city can do a better job with that instead of pitting neighbor against neighbor. If you got a bad actor, you got a bad actor. I don't care what they're doing, they're a bad actor. If you have somebody that is doing what they're supposed to do on the permit and someone continues to call and you've gone by and seen that it's not true, then you know that you're wasting a lot of manpower when somebody keeps sending a police officer out there or somebody keeps having to go visit something that's really not happening. That's that issue. The second issue is the boat ramp. I'm not exactly sure who's in charge of the boat ramp anymore down at Messick Point, but I've been wanting to talk about this for quite a while. I was down there, and it just happened to be down there yesterday at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to get out. Couldn't get out. Actually, I couldn't find a place to park my trailer. Not a single spot to park my trailer. But there were people from Williamsburg, Hampton, Newport News, Toanna, all over this area. And what Poquoson gets out of that is the cleanup the next day is what they get. People can't stop here for fuel because most of these boats can't go through the gas station that we have that's open on Sunday. One of them's closed. They're not stopping at restaurants to eat because they got big boats and trailers. There's no place to park that other than if they eat at the barbecue place down the street. So I don't know. Some places I've visited in the past and gone, there are a fee you pay to use the boat for the day, for the ramp. You pay $5 for the day. You pay 30 for the month or 100 for the year. And then at least you can recover some of your costs of the manpower that has to go out there and clean up the trash the next day. Because really and truly, the city is getting absolutely very little out of the boat ramp. There's no bait and tackle shop down there. There's really not a big bait and tackle shop in Poquoson. If there is one, I'm not sure where it's at anymore. So if you want to, get some of your money back or collect some money, make some revenue, maybe look at doing something down at that boat ramp and making somebody pay $5. It's still the easiest access to the bay there is. Somebody would pay $5 for the day. Somebody would probably pay 30 for the month, might pay 100 for the year. At least you're getting revenue in and not just revenue going out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, now I'll close the audience for visitors and ask council for consideration of the minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of our regular session of July the 13th, 2020.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We approve the minutes for the regular session of July 13th. Questions or comments? Seeing none, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, very well. So now we're to Section E of the agenda, which is public hearings. We have 3 public hearings this evening. First is an amendment to Chapter 34, Article 4, Division 3, Subdivision 2, Section 34.171C, and Appendix A, Article 1, Section 1 through 4, C2. And this all is dealing with regarding fees for the Wetlands Board and Board of Zoning Appeals. Wally?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, before I really get started, I want to point out that advertising in the newspaper is required, and both by our zoning ordinance, which covers the BZA, and also by Chapter 34, which covers our wetlands regulations. They are specifically, actually, 15.2.2204 is the state code, and it's explicitly referred to in the zoning ordinance. But the same language is borrowed and put into the wetlands ordinance about advertising for 2 successive weeks, not more than 21 days, not less than 5 days in advance of the hearing. So I wanted to say that up front. That being the case, excuse me for yelling, that being the case, what we have found is that since we are no longer able to use the Yorktown Crier or the Poquoson Post, in fact, they've closed, we have to use the Daily Press. They have higher fees than what our ordinance calls for us to charge. There's one example in here, the Planning Commission that showed a bill in excess of $400. And I did take the liberty, since we gave these materials to you, to take a look at the amount that they charged for Wetlands Board, and that was $589.10. Now, keep in mind, this was not the case of a Wetlands Board application for unpermitted work in progress. This is more of the variety that we happily get instead of that. That would, the fee for this would go from $250 to $500. You can see that we're not really covering all of our costs, but we're coming a lot closer. So this is an attempt to recover more of our costs, but still try to be cost conscious as far as our citizens and not, have a chilling effect on applications, I guess is what I would say. This is in the form of 3 different resolutions that the council will need to take a look at and approve. One for each one for Chapter 34, one for Appendix A, Article 1, and another one for Article 14 in the same appendix, Appendix A. So it's 3 different ordinances to look at, and I'll be happy to take any questions you might have.
So Planning Commission did look at this, and
Yes, sir.
and they approved.
They had 4 members that night, but they approved it 4-0. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then just one other question from me personally. What is the delta in fees on average? Look, I know each one of them might be slightly different, but I mean, are we doubling the application fee? for the advertisement? Are we,
Well, we're coming pretty close to it in some cases. We're going from 250 to 400, and we're going from 250 to 500 for the Wetlands Board, and from 500 to 750 where we have an application for unpermitted use in progress.
okay. All right, thank you.
So it's a substantial rise.
I appreciate that. I just wanted to know the general amount of pain from this, and I'll withhold any other comment until we have the public hearing, but I just want to know the answer to that. All right, is that all you got? Any questions of Wally? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, it is a public hearing. I'll open the public hearing if there's somebody in the public that would like to address this particular issue. Anyone? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration of council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the ordinance to amend the city code by revising Chapter 34, Article 4, Division 3, Subdivision 2, Section 34-171C and D pertaining to application fees for the Wetlands Board.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded that we approve this, and I'm pretty sure that we'll get motions made and seconded that we approve the next two. So I'll just make my general comment right here. I think there comes a point in time in every locality and every state where times change. And I think advertising in the paper has changed. Okay, so what we're doing here, because the lack of competition that used to be prevalent in the newspaper business, we're passing that on to the citizens in the form of increased fees. Now, city's not at fault either. Okay, so understand that the fee increase is needed so that we're not taking it out of the taxpayers' dollars and funding private development. So I sort of get that. But I would like to see us, and we can do this in council directives, but I would like to direct that we pass a letter to our state representatives to take on this antiquated system where the Daily Press just is the only one that profits from development in this manner. Okay, so I'd like to see us do that so that they can change this. I can support, because I don't want to take it out of the city's pocket, I can support this, but I tell you, it's going to get worse. And the internet, our signs, our ability to put out to affected citizens has increased as well. So not everybody's dependent on the paper anymore. So what I would like to see us do is pass this in the short term, but really take it on as a council. That's all I would ask of council to consider. All right, so that's my comments. Any other comments from council? Yes, buddy.
I would think a bulk mailing to every citizen in the city would cost less than $500. So that may be something we can consider if we could get the legislature to let us do that instead of advertising in the paper.
Okay.
Well, possibly we could ask our citizens to write the state legislatures as well, since this is driven solely by state law.
Roger that.
And I want to second those comments from Kerry because there's only one newspaper. Many people do not get that one, okay? And so having that as the only method of advertising to make it public knowledge is kind of ridiculous to think about in any case.
Go ahead.
I agree. I think in this age of technology, to have to force to be put it in the paper, and like you said, one paper, when there's so many other avenues, that needs to change.
It's unfair cost to our citizens, both the people who want to do things and to the people who do not.
So there's no other comments. I'll move on, but I'll tell you, I'm fearful that this would make a decision for somebody between coming to the city and asking, and those who may not be able to afford $500 and just doing it. Okay, so, and getting themselves into a worse situation as well as putting us behind the eight ball. I just don't ever want fees to govern what our citizens' actions are.
Yeah. Imagine if the application fee is quite a bit more than the cost of doing the project.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes,
could
sir.
make a comment real
Go ahead.
fast. You touched on, what we could do as a council to reach out to our legislature, and somebody made a suggestion that citizens could. And I did speak to Delegate Mugler about this when the Planning Commission approved encouraged us to pass this and expressed these exact concerns you all just had to her. And since then, she's actually drafted legislation that she's going to present to the General Assembly that would allow localities to make their legal advertisements online. I'm a little skeptical of how far that'll make it through the General Assembly's process. But I would definitely, encourage those, members of council that serve on some regional boards and know some folks in other localities to reach out to them and say, hey, maybe you should get your city manager or, some of your folks to look at your costs associated with this. I spoke to Billy Hobbs, one of Hampton's councilmen the other day about it, and, he really, kind of like us, you just don't think about it until it hits you, and then it gets pushed on to our citizens. So hopefully that bill that Delegate Mugler has drafted will make it through, and I think come January, maybe we should, like the mayor suggested, send something to all of them from this council and encourage them to pass it. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, if not, we got a motion made and seconded, and we approve the fee change. Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. The next ordinance, is there a motion on that?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance by revising Appendix A, Article 1, Section 1-4C2, pertaining to application fees for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, we increase these fees as well. Questions or comments? Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
And the third ordinance on fees?
Mr. Mayor, I reluctantly move that we adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance by revising Appendix A, Article 11-.4, Section 11.4 through 13D2, pertaining to application fees for the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, we approve those fee increases as well. Questions or comments? Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hucks,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Canella,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all the public hearings associated with that particular issue. The next public hearing is an amendment to Article 10, Section 10.5 and 10.12 of the zoning ordinance regarding setbacks for a freestanding accessory structure in the B2 zoning district.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mayor. This is an amendment to Article 10, Section 10-5 and 10-12 of the zoning ordinance regarding the setback requirements. This was discussed at the Planning Commission's work session on June 15th and the Planning Commission public hearing on July 20th of 2020. The upshot of this is the city staff received an inquiry related to the location of unmanned structures, such as standalone ATM structures, namely the BB&T, who is relocating to the, within the same shopping center, just in sort of a suite, I guess you would say. They're going to have a drive-up ATM, but they also want a drive-through ATM. So what this ordinance does, and it's not just for BB&T, can't stress that enough. Staff has included language concerning the amendment with the packet. The language would permit accessory structures within the front yard setbacks, would definitely apply beyond the BB&T proposal to all shopping centers zoned to the B2 zoning district. What the change would be to allow these unmanned accessory structures within the front setback if the tenant has a primary location within that same shopping center. BB&T in this case is going to have an area. But, you know, certainly unmanned structures incorporate more than ATMs. So this would just be a way of, frankly, our zoning ordinance never envisioned this type of thing. So this is a chance to sort of open it up a little bit without giving away the farm, as they say, but allowing some unmanned accessory structures within the front setback. In this particular case, BB&T has given us some, and it's really more of a site plan issue, but they have given us some plans that indicate that they are going to have 9 parking spaces. They're going to have a queuing area, and the shopping center's parking will still meet zoning requirements and that sort of thing, which we would do for anything.
Okay.
I'll take any questions you might have.
Questions of Wally?
Yeah. What about impacts to other businesses there?
Well, that is one reason why we said that the particular business has to have a location within that shopping center. We did an ATM once before in the Food Line Shopping Center. That would still require a full site plan, compliance with setbacks, proper queuing, and all of those things that we required for the Bayport, because Bayport doesn't have a permanent location with that shopping center. So I guess the simple answer to your question would be that it really shouldn't hurt existing businesses because the existing business is in the shopping center.
So Wally, what happens if the business then moves out of that shopping center? Would they be required to pay and remove then that structure?
I think we would require them to remove it, yes. That's a little harder, but I think we could say that it's in violation of the B2 requirements that we're looking at tonight. And I think on that basis, we could say that it has to be moved, yes.
I would like to see that written into the
So
ordinance.
if we consider this later on, why don't we put that
Okay.
in?
Well, I think it's in there. It says structures operated by a business having tenancy. So it's already in there. If they move out, they don't have tenancy in there anymore. They got to take the ATM with them.
Well, nothing says they have to take it out.
I think that's what they're saying. They need to bear the cost of returning it back to normal. Just something to consider. Thanks. Good question and comment.
Mr. Mayor, I did
What else
have
you
one
got?
question.
All right.
Did have one question. Mr. Horton,
Yes.
are there any safeguards in place to ensure that there are no visual obstructions to traffic?
Well, like anything else, it would be subject to site plan. So like where they're coming in off of With Creek Road, we'll definitely guarantee that they have proper site triangles and that sort of thing to eliminate any sort of blind cars moving out or people running into the cars as they come back on the With Creek Road.
Very good, thank you.
Yes.
And I just want to make sure that when you do that, you consider private easements, because I think it's a private easement on the north end of that property.
There is, well, there's a VEPCO easement, I know that.
There's a private drive. I'm looking at the drawing here. It looks
Oh,
like it's
okay,
near the
okay.
private drive. So I just want to make sure that it's not just public streets, but private just make sure you're looking out for the private citizens, not just public streets.
Sure, sure. And there will be some, to be clear, there will be some interruption to the parking scheme that exists on the shopping center because, like I said, 9 parking spaces are going to be subtracted to make room for the drive-through.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on it before we do the public hearing? Thanks, Mr. Horton.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll open the public hearing, see if anybody would like to address council on this particular subject. Okay, seeing none, quiet group out there. We'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance by revising Article 10, Sections 10-5 and 10-12 regarding setback requirements for accessory structures with the following sentence added behind what they have changed to say that if that business leaves that shopping center, they have to remove the ATM or remove the unmanned accessory and return the parking lot to its original condition.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We proceed with the ordinance with that clarification. Comments of council? Okay, seeing none, I'll just make, I guess, just a general observation. I appreciate staff working with BB&T, and I see that they're changing their name like everybody else, and Truist. In working with them as they changed lease arrangements with the shopping center. So anyway, thank you, staff, because I'm sure that you worked with them to get this done. So, and keep them in the city. All right, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Green?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews? Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Mayor Hunt?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, and the last public hearing this evening is an amendment to Article 5, Section 5, Tag 2 of the zoning ordinance regarding the location of accessory structures on corner lots.
Good evening. I'll just briefly outline this ordinance amendment pertaining to accessory structures. This came to our attention due to the Poquoson Middle School going to the Board of Zoning Appeals in June of this year. Our zoning ordinance has historically allowed in single-family residential areas accessory structures to be located in the backyard only. However, in 2014, we did amend the definition of lots and corner lots in our zoning ordinance to specify that corner lots have either front yards or side yards. They do not have rear yards. So any yard not facing a street would be considered a side yard if you were in a corner lot. So by definition, this makes it impossible, if you're strictly reading the ordinance, for corner lots to have accessory structures. This was not an intent of the changes. This was merely an oversight. And so the proposed language tonight is to correct that by allowing corner lots to have accessory structures located in the side yard, provided they meet the front yard setback for the property. I believe, based on discussions with the city manager and the city attorney, there is a slight variation on the language, which specifies that they could either meet the front yard setback or the front of the house, whichever is greater. So if council wishes to approve that language, they may do so.
Okay. Questions? Okay. Thank you very much. And that was, I'm sorry, I do have one, just to make sure we're clear.
Yes.
The Planning Commission did consider this? And
Yes, and they did approve it.
okay, thank you. All right, that said, I'll open the public hearing and see if anybody would like to address council on corner lot setbacks. Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask for consideration by council.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance by revising Appendix A, Section 5-2 pertaining to accessory structures on corner lots.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, we approve this ordinance change. Did that address the language that was specifically talked about? let's just make sure so we don't have to do this again.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, if you are in support of the amended language, I would suggest then a friendly amendment to include it. It is on the front page of your staff report in underline, I think, or a box. It came out of our final agenda review last week. We, like you do, we go backwards after we're done with the language to see if there was either an unintended consequence or an unintended miss. In this particular instance, by putting those words together, we make sure, I think, that it tracks to the intent.
So I'll ask for consideration of an alternate amendment. And I'm okay if the answer is no, you don't like the language.
Not quite sure what
All right, so let's.
alternate means. I mean, it
let's-
looks like
so
the
let's
same
get it-
thing to me.
So let's take the time to do it right, okay? So Randy, can you kind of walk us through this language change, or Mr. Horton, whatever? I just want to make sure that council's clear before they move forward with the item.
What we want to make sure of there. Me again. What we want to make sure of is that if they're going to put an accessory structure in a side yard, it not only has to meet the front yard setbacks, but we don't want an accessory building in front of the primary structure. So what we're saying here is that whichever is the greater of the two, whether it's where that primary structure is or whether it's the front yard setback, we're going to require them to be back that far. Because otherwise, the unintended consequence would be, as we discussed at the agenda meeting, would be you could theoretically have an accessory building that meets the front yard setbacks, but might be in front of the principal building, and we don't want that. So that's why we said whichever's greatest.
So the alternative language on the front page here of your memorandum, the alternative language is the first?
Yes, the first one is the alternative language.
Okay, well, I would like to amend my motion to include that in lieu of what's in the motion.
Okay.
Second.
To include the language into the motion before us. All right, council straight, everybody?
Yep.
All right, questions or comments now on the motion as adopted, or as amended? Okay, seeing none. Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Hux.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, out of public hearing, so let's see if we can move along a little bit quicker here. New business. First item here is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Basic Construction. Randy? Tom?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and council, our paving contract ran out on the 14th. And, of course, we put it back out, put it out to bid. We had, 3 bidders, and Basic Construction was the pretty much overall lowest. They were like 20%, taking everything into consideration for, like adjusted utilities and, pavement in place. So it would end up being like a 2-year contract where, the price can't go up for 2 years, and then 3 one-year renewals after that. And if anybody has any questions.
Questions of council? No, I think we're good. If Buddy's good with road construction, then I'm good with road construction. All right, and we do have a history with Basic Construction as well.
Yes, we do. We just got finished.
Thank you very much. All right, so thanks. And if no comments, is somebody prepared with a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Basic Construction Company, LLC.
Second.
A motion made and seconded that we approve this resolution. Questions or comments of council? Seeing none. Evie, please.
Certainly. Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Cox.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay. The next item under new business is a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with MK Taylor Jr. Contractor Incorporated.
Mr. Mayor and Council, our concrete contract runs out, or ran out on August the 9th. And, we, put a bid out. We had 3 bidders, and MK Taylor is actually the lowest bidder. And we'd like to give them the contract. So
This is for concrete repair.
it is for concrete work. Anytime we have any paving going on, or we go in there and we replace all the damaged curb and gutter, or if there's any sidewalks or anything in that area, we always go before we do the paving, and repair everything that we can, to a certain extent.
Yep.
So, and even not just with the paving, but like when we have areas that need repairing, like up on Wythe Creek or anywhere else, we use them. We'll use that lowest bidder, and it's the same thing. It'll be for 2 years, and like I say, I do that so, they can't go up for 2 years, and then we do 3 one-year successions after that, if we're satisfied with their work.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, Tom.
And getting back to the VDOT maintenance money is what pays for like paving and or concrete, and for, FY '21, they allocated $505,000 to do not only paving, it's just kind of a maintenance money, but I use, 90% of that money goes towards our paving contract. And that's why our streets are in such good condition. We really, we take pride in making sure that, we don't have a lot of potholes and different things. But that money is also used for other things. So that whole $505,000, we're not going to use every bit of that for paving. We'll use it for other needs, during the year. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there so you guys will know what's.
All right.
Any questions?
No. Thank you. Council, motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with MK Taylor Jr. Contractor Incorporated.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. We authorize our Public Works to work with MK Taylor and through the city manager. So, final questions or comments? Seeing none, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, next item on the agenda is old business. And the old business here is ordinance granting the purchase of, one item left under new business, resolution making appointments to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Sorry about that. All right, is there somebody prepared to move forward with a motion here?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution making an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals with the following names inserted. From the Western Precinct, Nancy M. Wissinger, and from the Central Precinct, Stephen D. Hahn, whose terms will expire August 31st, 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, and I don't think those are new, they're not new appointments. They're, got it. Okay, motion made and seconded, we confirm those members for some more time. Questions or comments of council? Okay, seeing none, Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Okay, now, old business, and this is an ordinance granting the purchase of publicly owned property located within the unimproved portion of Wainwright Drive. Is there somebody from council that's prepared to make a motion to move forward or not with this item.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we reject the bids for the sale of the unimproved portion of Wainwright Drive.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we reject the bids and not dispose of the publicly owned property at the end of Wainwright Drive. Questions or comments of council?
Mr. Mayor, we had a pretty productive conversation in our work session about the drainage issues that were brought to our attention by some of our citizens neighboring that property. And I'm going to assume that we can notify them of that work session and what we discussed. I would assume within a couple weeks. And I think we should do that because in conversations with some of them, and there was us as well as some of the citizens there were under the impression that some of our drainage systems that the city is responsible for was not functional, and that wasn't true, and I think we need to clarify that. I also don't think there's a clear consensus amongst this council on whether to sell this property or reject the bid. And I would like to give the citizens on Wainwright another couple weeks to reach out to us and express their concerns. Certainly, read that letter that the city's going to send them and provide the, bidder an opportunity to discuss with us or staff or neighbors. I just don't want to outright reject this when I don't think there's a clear consensus amongst council and then have to reopen this process, the bid process, the advertisement process, the public hearing process. I'd like to make a substitute motion that we postpone action on this until our first meeting of September. I think that allows the stakeholders and us as council to really formulate a consensus and a real opinion of this before we outright reject it. So that's my substitute motion, is to postpone action on this ordinance for sale until our first September meeting.
Is there a second to the?
Yeah, I would second that.
Second to the substitute motion. So Wayne, point of order here.
I believe that the first motion, the motion and the second have to consent to a substitute motion.
Okay, so there's a consent on the first motion. That would be you, buddy.
No, I don't consent to it.
Okay, and who did the second on that? Bud?
No.
Okay. All right, then we'll take a motion on the first ordinance, which is the motion to not sell the property. Right?
So
All right.
just to
So-
clarify.
All right, so go ahead.
Just to clarify, if you would like to postpone this action, then you would have to vote no. Or actually, that's not true because we're voting on the sale of the property. So if we vote no just to get to the suspended motion, then we reject the sale. So quite frankly, I would have assumed by just our parliamentary procedure that a substitute motion would take precedent over the original motion, and we would vote to suspend, to at least postpone this before we vote on whether or not to sell the property. That's all I'm asking for, is not to approve the sale, but just postpone the vote. So if you want to reject it, just vote against postponing it, and then we can vote on approval or rejection of the bid. I'm just saying, we should vote on postponement first.
All right, so just like we're kind of governed by parliamentary rules. All right, so your first motion was that we postpone it. It was rejected by the first of the original motion, so, and rejected by the second. Had either one of them said, hey, we'll do that, then we would have gone somewhere else. But now, unless there's another motion on the floor, which I can't think of one to postpone at this point, then the motion stands that we're going to reject the bid. And if you want to see it postponed, I guess there is no way to go there.
Yeah, you would vote nay.
You would,
vote no if you
No.
want to see it go forward, and you would vote yes if you were in favor of the motion to reject the bid.
right.
That's what my point was. If, what we're doing now, so basically what we're getting at, the motion postponed is off the table because the motion to reject the bid was made first. So all I'm asking is, and if you don't want to do it, that's okay. If you would just consider letting this council take a vote on postponing action until next month, and then you can vote to reject the sale of the bid, that's fine. But I think we should postpone it. If you want to reject it, then fine. But now, we have to vote whether to accept or reject the bid based on the fact, now that's a vote we have to make. So I would greatly appreciate if there would be a consent to postpone, to allow the vote to postpone to happen before we take the vote to whether accept or reject the bid.
I would support Thomas in his request that either Bud or Buddy agree to let us postpone to have more time to think about it. I would certainly like more time to think about it.
So the way to vote then is that with the motion on the floor is to reject the bid. You will vote, if you want another bid, or you want to postpone, you'll vote no to that motion. And then we will see if that carries the day. Okay? Otherwise, the motion on the floor and the second is to reject the bid.
But I believe I'm correct, that the first motion has to, the motion and the second have to consent to an alternate motion or an amendment to their motion that was already on the floor.
Yeah. So I think.
And if my motion doesn't pass, then they can make a different motion.
And that would be a second motion.
Right.
That's correct.
Exactly.
And had either one of them backed out, I would have said, okay, well,
So just to clarify, if we vote no, it doesn't mean that we're voting to sell,
that's correct.
correct? Okay.
Because the motion is to reject the bid.
Okay, so to make this clear to me, okay, now, I personally think it's unfair to the people who wanted to buy the property, okay, to keep them in limbo longer, okay? And I seconded a vote to go ahead and reject the exception of the bid, okay, so that we wouldn't put those people through the additional waiting period. Okay. My vote is still going to be no to reject the bid, okay? But if it's a consensus of council, okay, that we just want to wait to vote no for the bid, to reject the bid, okay, then I would be willing to do that.
All right, but it's your second, so I want to make sure
Okay.
that you're clear
Okay.
that
All
it would
right.
be unusual for you to vote. I'm
All
not
right,
saying it can't be done.
I second it because I believe Buddy is correct and that's what we should do, okay? But I will wait a month, okay, to vote no, okay? If that's a consensus of council.
Withdraw his second.
All right, then I will withdraw my second, okay, and vote no next time.
Okay, roger that. All right, so let's go back. So now we have and I would tell everybody in the public, just bear with us here. We don't normally have, but we do have a divided council on this issue, okay? And that's not frequent. So the motion on, with you withdrawing the second, then, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Motion made.
Yes, the motion made. Is there a second? So Buddy's motion. Okay, seeing none. Now, is there another motion? Is there a second to Councilman Canales? All right, okay. So the motion on the floor and what we're voting on is to postpone action on this for another month.
Well, actually, as I understand it, it's to propose rejecting, a motion to reject the bids.
No,
You seconded the motion to
Yeah.
reject the bid.
Okay, but I thought we were going to,
so,
We're motioning now to
so
postpone.
by you withdrawing your second, okay, then the motion can't come up to a vote, and the prevailing motion is the motion to postpone.
I will withdraw my second, okay? I'm going to vote the same way next time.
Okay, so we're still voting on a postponement. That's what I hear. Got it? All right. So if you want to postpone it, your vote will be yes, and if you don't want to postpone it and you just want to move the item ahead, your vote will be no.
Okay, if we were to vote no, then where are we?
Well, if we vote no, then we'll open it up again. We'll try again.
That's what I'm saying, then we'd be right back to where we started.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right. So we understand what we're voting on.
We're either voting yes, that we want to postpone this until our next meeting, or no, we don't want to postpone it.
Yeah.
And in which case, then we have to vote on accepting the bid or
Well,
not
yeah,
accepting
that's
the bid.
correct. All right. So now we know what the motion is. I'll open up the discussion amongst council.
Well, like I said, I would like to postpone it just because there was a lot of information tonight. I talked to staff a little bit in the break, but I might like to ask some more questions. I'm sort of a drive home, think of questions kind of person, and I don't really like having a work session normally and then voting immediately after. I would just like some time to consider this because it's important to the citizens. It's also important to the person that wanted to buy the property. We made the choice to put that out for bid. We could have not done that. So I just would like some more time to think about it before I vote.
Well, nothing in the work session pertains to rejecting or accepting the bid.
Correct.
And nothing in rejecting the bid would prevent the citizens from Wainwright Drive to come to us with different suggestions, even if their suggestion is to come up with a different method of selling it. So we're not eliminating any input from the Wainwright Drive people. I'm just saying reject the bid.
All right. So anyone else from council? And I'll let you know where I'm coming from.
Well, I'd also like to say that I don't feel right accepting money to sell something that was given to us. That just does not seem right to me. And I think we'd get a lot of criticism for it.
Well, then why did we put it out for bid?
I beg your pardon?
We could have not put it out for bid then, right?
We've already put it out for bid. We got one bid.
Right, but I'm saying if that was our feeling, then we could have not done that action to begin with, correct?
All right. So I'll
I
ask
guess.
council to all take a step back for a second. Okay? Take your emotions off the, maybe look at take a step back and let's take a look at this from a big picture thing. We, council, elected to put that property out for bid, okay? Okay, at the request of one landowner, right? So we did that. Right, wrong, or indifferent, or whatever your feelings are, that's legally and done. The business, I don't want anybody confused here. The business that we conducted in the work session has nothing to do with the bid of the property. It had to do with a comment of one of the citizens who came to address drainage in the area. We will be able to accommodate, and don't anybody leave here going, the city's going to fix our drainage. If you look at the work session, it basically says the city's drainage structures are clear. We're going to fix one small issue that doesn't appear that, and there are some issues with private drainage along that easement. I don't think that's a surprise to any of the landowners that are affected. All right, open kimono here. I just don't see the path ahead where council's going to sell this property until the neighborhood all gets together and decides what that property needs to look like. Okay? So personally, I believe we're just stringing the process along. Okay? But I think that I'm not out for just dispositioning the property between landowners in the future. That's not the way publicly held property is, and a bad precedent to set. Okay? With all of that said, I think we should all consider, are we just stringing out the issue, or do we think that it's going to be resolved by what we're doing this evening? I'm going to vote no. Okay? I'd rather just make a decision and move forward, and I won't tell you that it's going to resolve itself just because we let it go another month. I'm okay with either way the council decides to go. I'm just saying, from my position, that's what I'd like to, that's what I am going to do. All right? All right, Evie, please.
Yes, sir. Councilman Hux.
To clarify, an I vote
Delays them.
is to postpone.
Right.
No.
Councilman Southall.
No.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Yes.
Councilman Green.
No.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
No.
Mr. Mayor, the motion failed on a 4-3 vote.
Okay, thank you very much. So now, do you want to move forward with your motion to,
I move that we reject the bid.
Second.
okay, motion made and seconded that we reject the bid. All right, all right, same fairness? Questions or comments of council?
Just to clarify the vote, if we vote no, we're voting to reject the bid, correct?
No. If you
No.
vote yes,
If we vote yes, we're voting to reject the bid.
that is correct.
Okay.
No is, so you vote just the opposite of what you just did, okay. I'm actually having to write it down. All right. Evie, please.
Sir. Councilman Canella.
No.
Councilwoman Andrews.
No.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
No.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Hux.
Aye.
Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, this vote carried by a vote of 4-3.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that was fun. Comments of the city manager. Randy, pull us out of this.
I don't know how to follow that. So I guess what I'll say instead is a couple of informational notes. One, I really want to thank everyone in our community last week that prepared for and helped their neighbors through the many impacts we had from the storm. Most of the impacts that we had were power outages, some of them extended for a couple of days. And that's when you really know who your neighbors are, and there were a lot of people helping people, and I'm very proud of that. And that differentiated us well as a community compared to some others. Related to that, just in case people were not aware of it from any of our other attempts to put the word out, we began today picking up landscape and tree limb debris from the storm. If the citizens will put that out by the road, not in the road, but right on the road. If it's from your home and it's not generated by a contractor, we're going to be sweeping the city. We hope this week, it may go into next week, but we'll get every street once in an effort to help folks. And just we'll come to you this time because we know there's a significant amount of debris and limbs in certain parts of the city. So we're doing that, and thanks to Tom and his folks for doing that. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, comments, directives of council. We'll start with Councilman Southall, only because I can see you over there.
Well, I would like to thank the city for all the support that they have given the citizens of Poquoson during the storm. I'm glad to see that the city made out as well as it did. And I'd like to thank the city staff and the city manager for all the hard work they did preparing all this material for us tonight. And there's a lot of hard work. And I'm sorry that we had a lot of all the discussions that we had on the previous issues. There's lots that could be said about the controversial vote, okay? But it's not done. We can still do other things in the future. I just hate keeping people in limbo, and that's the entire reason I did what I did.
Okay, thank you, bud. Councilwoman Andrews.
No additional comments.
Councilman Canella.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to clarify, like Councilman Southall did, and I get our work session has nothing to do with the sale of that property. Well, we would have never had that work session if we hadn't entertained the bid, because then it became a contributing factor. That's why we had the work session. And I thought it was important in directing staff to let homeowners know, who I'll say took issue with us rejecting or accepting the bid, to let them give them an answer on the issues they raised. So I thought another month would have been adequate in letting some members of council talk amongst each other or to staff, and certainly if people who the purchase may have or may have not affected, to reach out to us and staff. And that was my only reason for wanting to postpone it. But just for my sanity, if the city attorney could give us a little clarification on a substitute motion and what that takes to make happen, maybe my parliamentary procedure isn't as good as I thought it was. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
All right, right.
And Thomas, I would like to say I agree with you that the city should pass on the information we found out in that study, okay? That they should do that, okay?
All right. Councilman Hutchins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no further comment. Councilman Green?
Since we don't have a second meeting, I'd like to remind the citizens that the mobile food pantry will be the 25th of October, which is a little over 2 weeks from today, from 10 to 1 at the old City Hall. And our host this time is Emmaus Baptist Church.
Wonderful. Okay,
And it will be another drive-through.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vice Mayor?
No further comments.
Okay. All right, so just clarification, because we bounced around a lot tonight. All right, so the outcome of the work session this evening, prior to the formal meeting, we've asked staff as a council to contact all the neighbors that are affected by what we found in a letter with the pictures of the pipe and all that sort of stuff. And Randy Wheeler, our city manager, has taken action to make sure that that gets issued, along with recommendations to the private property owners. As well as you can follow up, well, I'm sure we'll rebroadcast that meeting. Two, just kind of echoing what Randy was saying about the storm, I'll echo about the fire that we had on Woodland Road and the amount of public support for the fire staffs of Hampton, York County, and I believe Nassau that all responded to that blaze. Our condolences to the family, but the turnout of the citizens in support of their fire people and getting them hydrated and supported was amazing. And I think that's the difference between living in Poquoson and living somewhere else, is that people pull together. So I will just always applaud that. I think that's all I have. Yeah, I know that's all I have. All right, so I'll take a motion that we go into closed session. We're not done yet, council. We have to talk about prospective business announcement in the city's interest. So if we could take a motion that we go into closed session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we convene a closed session pursuant to sections 2.2-3711A5 and A8 as amended to discuss a prospective business where no previous announcement has been made of the business's interest in locating in the city, and to consult with legal counsel pertaining to specific legal matters requiring legal advice by counsel.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we go into closed session. There's no counter motions, right? Okay, all right, just check. Evie, please.
Certainly. Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Canella?
Aye.
Councilman Hux?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye,
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
very well. We're in closed session.
Our closed session then that we talked about, only what we convened the closed session to talk about.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded, we certify the closed session. Evie, please.
Certainly. Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Very well. And a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Okay. Evie, please.
Certainly. Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Councilman Canella.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
And Mayor Hunt. Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.